Hey everybody, I'm Barney Taylor. Welcome back to In the Record Room. And guess who's here this morning? It's only DJ, dancer, collector, and good friend Paul Duffy. Paul, welcome to In the Record Room. How are you?
Barney, how's it going? How are things?
Things are really good, actually. The sun is shining. I'm talking about music. What more could a man ask for?
What more could you want? Yeah. I mean, with the weather that's outside, how could you not go outside for a walk?
Absolutely.
Within that 5K limit, by the way.
Absolutely. No, well, in fact, I mean, my life is in a 2-meter attic room, which is where we're speaking today. But listen, it's really great to have you on the show. You know how this works. I've set you the impossible task of choosing 3 records, and then the further impossible task of actually articulating what these records mean to you. But before we get there, you know what I'm going to say. And so let's begin, Paul, by saying, where did it begin for you? What brought you on this journey? Because the last time we met was actually, I think you were playing at D8. Was that the last time? Yeah. I think. And
that was a great night.
Do you know, you kept the film filled.
That was a great night.
It was a great night. And you played a great set. You have a lot of joy in your sets as well. So that's something I was really keen to talk to you about. But we'll get to that in a moment. But begin with, where did it all begin, Paul?
The easiest answer for that is it actually all started with my brother, my older brother, Mick. He was a mod back in the 80s. And I'm the guest that you've had. There's a running joke. Sorry, we'll get to the sort of soul family that I have. The soul family that I run with are Paul Davis and John Dunn and the old Dublin Soul Club. People. That's how I got schooled in soul. But years ago, when in the 80s, when Bubbles was happening, the guys I was just like listening to Paul Davis and then Ian Bourne talk and Joe Moran talk about Bubbles. When they were going, I was only like it was 83, 84 when they were going. I was 1. I was born in 83. So and there's a running joke of Paul Davis that I'm considerably younger than everybody else on the
which is a good thing, I think, is it?
but then the other side of that coin is Paul Davis and Maria Willingham were having a conversation one time, and Maria Willingham said, "It's not Paul Duffy. Jesus, he's been around forever." And that's it. But it does really feel as though I've been around forever, and this is So I'm going around circles.
No, you just take your time in this circle. I'm listening.
I'll go back to. So it all started with listening to and wanting to be like your older brother.
Yeah.
So Mick at the time when obviously I was 5, 6, 7, 8 in the 80s, and I was listening to his records. I was watching what he was doing. I was watching how he was dressing, because he obviously had the suits and stuff like that. Now, as you can see, I'm in a t-shirt. I didn't take that part of being a mod. Actually, I did the only part of being a mod that I took was the music. I'm not really into mod stuff. It never really stuck to me. But the soul did. Yeah. So two things that Mick was doing back then was he was a mod, and he was into soul music and into mod music, and he was on the radio. So literally my 2 passions and my 2 loves I've gotten. That's Dara in the background. Say hi, Dara.
Hey, Dara.
My 2 passions I got from my brother Mick.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. So then I was about 97, 98. So I was into it from a very early age, and it stuck with me. And what I always remember was in 97, 98, 99, going to school, when everybody was, "Oh, are you Blur or are you Oasis? Are you Blur or Oasis? What are you?" Yeah. I was like, "I don't care, lads. I'm into soul music. That's what I'm into."
Yeah.
And while 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds were going off to sort of discos, school discos, or going to concerts with their brothers or sisters or friends or whatever, I was actually going over to England to go to soul nights.
The
Nighters came later, but I was going to soul nights. It's I remember I remember starting off the very very first time going into the Dublin Soul Club when it was in the Plough.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Talk to me about this,
What
because I hear about the Dublin Soul Club all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, two better blokes you won't ever get with Paul Davis and John Dunn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And much more than just sort of like right on Soul Brothers. Like they really are what I would consider like extended family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they took me under their wing. I remember the very, very first, I was badgering my brother Mick to go. I wanted to go. And he's like, "You're too young, too young, too young."
Yeah.
And I think it was Joe Moran, I think, who said it at something, because I was always, like, I really was hounding them and badgering them. So Paul Davis and my brother did a soul show on the local community station near FM.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and then and I was ringing them all the time to play records. And then at the same time, Joe Moran and Carol Mitchell were doing radio shows on a pirate station called Jazz FM.
Right, okay.
Great, and I remember like so many wonderful memories. So ringing Paul and Mick on the Dublin Soul Club Soul Show to ask them will they play my favourite song. It was my favourite song at the time. It's actually one of the records that I have.
Perfect. We'll come back to that in a minute.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So again, it's sort of like it's just I feel like how long is this meeting and how long have you got for today? Because there's a lot of stuff that we have to get through.
I'm here for you, Paul. Keep talking. One of the questions I was going to ask, actually, and one of the things I'm discovering from talking to people is there are some records that are kind of synonymous with people's getting started. For me, it was some of the Kent Soul stuff, the Club Soul, that kind of stuff. Were there records, aside from the one that you've chosen to talk about, what were the other records that you would kind of remember from your early days that brought you into?
And see, this was I literally all week I've been going through the box and like annoying Dara's head so much because just like pacing up and down the house saying, he's giving me an impossible task. It's an impossible task. So like there's so many. So I remember having again, there was a Dublin Soul Club. It was I don't think it was even Dublin Soul Club. I think it was Night Owl. So I think I don't know. I think Night Owl was and Paul Davis venture. I can't remember. But there was a tape that was sitting in the living room.
Yeah.
Sorry, the front room. It's the good room, the front room where it's only used for visitors and you don't go in there.
Yeah.
That room. So there was a tape that had a record on it. It didn't have a track listing, and the song that was in that stuck with me for years.
Yeah.
Ended up being the Flares. You've Got to Steal It.
Nice.
On rap.
Yeah.
And in the end, I actually bought it off Paul Davis.
Okay, yeah.
I don't like it. So I was like, right, Grant, I'll take it, because it stuck with me. And again, I think I wore down the tape, played it, rewound it, played it, rewind, play, rewind, play, rewind. It was just, and that was actually going to be in the 3. But, and that's the thing, there were so many others. And if I can cheat, and I think I have the 3 records.
Yeah.
And I have 2 honourable mentions.
Now, I don't mind honourable mentions with that. We'll come to that at the end. Yeah. I wanted to pick up on something because this is a show about vinyl. It's about the love, the collecting, the smell, the feel, the handle, the care. Yeah. But every time we have a conversation, it's also about mixtapes. It's also about, and that's another of these histories, because a lot of people I talk to, they didn't have the records. They couldn't afford the records, or they didn't know where to get the records. But they had the tapes, and you heard the tapes. And so clearly, again, part of your mythology as well is this kind of the mixtape. Yeah.
Well, see, that's, I love how this conversation's going, because it like, you're saying something, sparking something in my head. I remember I remember a comment that Paul Davis said on the radio show, that he played a song for me. He said, "That's for Paul Duffy. Probably has the biggest Northern Soul collection on tape." And it's true, because I recorded everything, and that comes with that's where the two passions infuse. It's because I'm a radio anorak. I love radio and everything to do with radio.
Yeah.
Because I'm a geek and I'm a nerd, and I'm actually very, very lucky that I actually have a potential wife. a future
But listen,
wife.
I mean, I think actually it's just about curating, and it's about the love of things. So, you know, I probably would share some of the traits that you're extolling.
So it was all about tapes, because again, that was like, you've got to remember, when I was getting into it, I was 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
At that stage, I didn't have any money.
No.
So it was 13, 14, 15 when I started working on the milk round with Mick, my brother. He had a milk round. Yeah. When I started to work on his milk round, that's when I started to get cash. Yeah. And that's when I started to buy the Kent LPs. Yeah. Yeah. And doing my usual Saturday mornings into Freeboard, picking up the latest. Well, when I say the latest Kent LPs, they weren't the latest. They were around ages.
They were the latest for you, though, weren't they?
They were the latest for me, because, again, I was just so new to it. So yeah, before that, Paul Davis used to make me tapes. I remember I used to do soul shows on Near FM as well, and I got Joe Moran. Yeah, I got Joe Moran in to do some. I got John Dunn in to do some. I got Brian Dunn in to do some. Got Rob O'Moran in to do some as well. So yeah, it was there was, and again, obviously, I would tape them, and again, so I'd have their records on tape, and again, just like you said, curating and just listening to everything and making sure it all sticks.
There's this amazing, from talking to you and listening to your story, there's this amazing aural landscape which has a kind of historical significance. It would almost be like if you could make a map out of sounds. It would be a map which would chart the journey of yourself and this constellation of family and friends and people you meet. This would be an extraordinary. Imagine if it was possible to make an audio scape which was just this kind of living, breathing, organic memory. I mean, this is part of what I'm doing with you today is a tiny little impulse compared to the amount of sound that must be out there somewhere.
Yeah. Which is currently in my mother's attic, which at the gas thing is, because of this pandemic, that's where you sort of stop and you think and you go, okay, what do I have? What's around? And you remember years ago. And that's the thing. I have so much stuff up on my mother's attic, and now I can't get to it because she's on the north side and I'm on the south side. So there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. There is a lot of stuff around, and it's interesting what you said there. Again, create two passions colliding. There's something that I've always wanted to do, which now is shot to the forefront and is vitally important that I actually see it through, because I've said it now. Paul Davis wrote a fantastic piece called Heaven Underground.
Right, okay.
Based on the 100 Club. And I always said that I would love to put it to a soundscape. I would love to create a soundscape for that. And I've said it to a few people, a few big 100 Club heads that are regulars. Yeah. So when this all passes and we're able to travel again, I'm going over with my recorders and getting them to record it and vocalizing it and actually making it, because it's sort of, I've said it to Paul for years. It's a fantastic piece of writing. Yeah. It really, really is.
Wow, I'd love to read it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I must, after this, I'll send it on to you. It really is a fantastic piece of writing. Yeah. And it blew me away. And because I have such a love of the 100 Club, it means an awful lot to me. Yeah. So, and again, bringing the two worlds and the two passions that I have together, I always said that I must actually do it. But again, you yourself, it's trying to find the time to actually do it.
I think, yeah. I think the problem is now that we're all kind of have been in lockdown for a while, the original thinking was we'd get much more done. But actually, I think one of the things we've all learned is that you actually need to take the pressure off yourself. Just because you're locked down doesn't mean to say you've got time. I mean, so I think I'm thrilled to hear about this, because there's just something amazing about cultural memory, about voices, and when you were talking about the tapes, I could hear all of the old tape noises that tape decks and other things make, and imagining that you could fold that into part of this kind of history, this historical audioscape. It's fascinating. Now we'll come back to the 100 Club in a minute, because that's central to most people's lives that I've spoken to, and it's very, very interesting. But maybe we might, because you hinted at it earlier, we might then move on to the first record you've chosen, and my hands are held up. I know how difficult it was, and as I say to everybody, if we were to make this
sorry, can I cut across you? Not difficult. Impossible.
Well, then you have performed an impossible task, Paul. Your day is done now.
Are you saying we have done the equivalent of turning water into wine?
There's something miraculous about this, but also it is contingent, because, I mean, one week it might be rosé, the next week it might be white. I think the thing about it is that if we have this conversation tomorrow, next week, or next year, you may have chosen different things. And that's part of the fun of me talking to you, because it's a snapshot in a personal history.
It's interesting that you said that, because I really don't. If you got me this time 12 months, I don't think they'd change.
Oh, we're good. That's interesting.
Because I have really, really leant on the side of, what does this record mean to you? What memory does it evoke in you? That's that has been the forefront of my decisions all the time. And there's 3 very decent stories attached to the records. So
I can't wait any longer, Paul. Tell me the first one, please.
Right, first one. Eddie Hallman. Eddie's My Name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I love the label. They're beautiful, aren't they? The
Parkway. I love Parkway Records.
Yeah,
love it. So this record here.
Yeah.
Sorry, this I've only recently, in the past 2 years, actually got it. I got it as a present from my to-be wife, Dara. And there's a great story attached to that as well. How it actually.
Okay, well then we got 2 stories then.
2 stories, yeah. So the first one is that record. That song was the very, very first song I ever heard. The first Northern Soul record that I ever heard.
Perfect. What a good place to start.
Picked up the first tape. I was about 8. I must have been about 8 or 9, because I remember. I can't remember my age, but I can see it so vividly.
Yeah.
So in that good room, in that front room, that's in, and any Dubliner or any Irish person will go, the good room, yeah. But in that there was a wooden sort of not fireplace, but it was sort of like a mantle piece, and there was cabinets in it, and that's where Mick stored all his tapes and records and stuff like that. Okay. And then so when you walk in, that was on the back wall, and to the right, in the corner was the hi-fi and the stereo.
Yeah.
So picked up and it could have been anything. It was a random tape, as far as I can recall. Yeah. It was a random tape. It was just going into the press and picking something up. Yeah. It could have been because obviously I told you Mick was into working the radio at the time. Yeah. So it could have easily been a radio tape or something to do with radio, but it wasn't. It was soul, and Eddie's My Name was the first song that aired. That's what came on.
Wow.
And and it stuck with me ever since. And again, that was the record that I always annoyed Mick and Paul with, ringing them up on the Dublin Soul Club show.
Can you play it? Can you play it?
Play it. Yeah, yeah.
Did they, or did they refuse to?
No, they did. But like some weeks, Paul was like, give it a rest. And Mick would just do the fob me off and go, yeah, I will play. I'll get around to it. And what?
I never did.
Yeah.
Do you hear it out much? Have you heard it out much?
Actually, no. I haven't heard it out in Ireland in ages.
Okay.
Heard it in Curtis in Cleethorpes Sunday night a couple of years ago.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, no. And the gas thing was it was in the box to play in D8, but just never got around to it.
But see, that's the story, isn't it? I've had this conversation. It's a really interesting conversation. Do you, can you, will you, and then you don't, and then you can't because the moment's gone. And then
there's one rule and one rule only. We play to the floor.
Yeah.
Simple as.
Yeah.
It's as simple as.
Yeah.
You can come in with the biggest box of rarities and unknowns and semi-knowns, and this is a 500 price tag, this is a grand price tag.
Yeah.
The connoisseurs amongst us will, like, take for example that D8 night that I was DJ.
Yeah.
Harpo played Robert Tanner.
Yeah.
Sweet Memories. I lost my shit. Absolutely lost, because what a record.
Oh yeah.
And that's, I suppose that's the beauty of a DJ.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the clubs that we actually have
Yeah.
on this tiny island.
Yeah.
That you can go from an obscene record like that, obscenely good and obscene in price tag, to a £5, £10, £15 record, just like that. And it not only it's encouraged. Yeah. Where, because it's like there's times where price tag doesn't matter, and it should, and that's the thing, price tag shouldn't matter and shouldn't ever dictate. It's like to Rob, what was it? Was it Gordy? The Gordy label? It's what's in the grooves that count.
Yeah. But I think you're absolutely right. I think one of the great privileges of me getting involved with people like yourself and everybody else on the scene is, without exception, I don't think I have met anybody who feels they're more important than the people they're playing for. So I've just been really lucky to meet so many people who just have, and it's not a fake humility, they say exactly what you say. They say it doesn't matter whether it's a £5, 500, £5,000. It's not about me. It's not about having it. Now, that doesn't mean to say that you don't look forward to hearing amazing records.
Yeah,
and I think, as you say, one of the beauties is to be able to move from one set to another where all points in between fit. I mean, one of the things that I love the most about the scene is its willingness to experiment and to not only play the songs that everybody wants you to play. And there's nothing wrong with that, but to occasionally throw in something a bit left field, and everybody would just accept it.
And it's about how you do it as well, because this is where my in a previous life I was a club jock, like just a normal nightclub jock, and then a jock on the radio as well. And I still work in radio, so that's where my commercial mind comes in. That it's the same with when you program a radio station, and you're breaking new music, you back it up with, you put it in the middle and sandwich it between a current big A-list song, and a firm favourite, and that's so either side of it, you've got familiarity. So it's this. I would go the same way. I would like to think when I do sets that I do it the same way. If there's something that I want to play that I know actually I'm taking a punt on this, or I'll get 2 or 3 on the floor. I'll get 2 or 3 new people on the floor, 2 or 3 staying, but I'll get a couple of walk-offs. You should best come from that record, where it's a storming record, and then have
Yeah.
the get out of jail card ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think
Yeah.
so. But I remember the set you played because that was that night where it was Christmas, I think, wasn't it? And we were having issues with the PA, and that's another story. But there was a really mixed crowd that night. It was a really varied crowd. And I remember your set specifically because you just kept the floor chocker. And there was a lot of joy to your set as well. Can you remember some of the records you played? Are any of them that you've chosen?
One of them is actually one that I've chosen. One of them is the last.
Okay, well then maybe we'll come back to that when you talk about your third record. But I just remember, standing by the door watching and just thinking, well, look, that's what it's all about. And it comes from a love, I think, doesn't it? And this is what I love about DJs.
Pure unadulterated passion.
That's all it is. And also for dancers. And that's a Kent album, I think.
And that's it's interesting that you say that. I am a dancer first and foremost.
Yeah.
I love jocking.
Yeah.
And I'm on the sidelines of promoting and and being attached to and running clubs.
Yeah.
I do believe that will come later because remember, I am considerably younger than
you're the Peter Pan of the soul scene, are you?
but yeah, of course, I am dancer, and I've always said that, and that will never leave me.
Yeah,
never. Leave me.
Yeah, but you see, that's one of the beauties, because there is a muscle memory that has been developing in people who dance like yourself and dance very well. That it's been there for years, for decades. I know you're really only 17, but there's this sort of sense that
God, I wish. Remember those days?
But when I watch people dance, one of the things that I love, aside from all of the other things, is that they've been practicing, rehearsing, developing, trying to perfect these steps for 20, 30 years, and that's something beautiful.
It's only when you say that I remember. Like I was very. I don't know. Maybe you might be. When I tell you this, you might be able to come up with a few words for it. But I remember being 12, 13, 14.
Yeah. And
being at home.
Yeah.
And literally making my own wooden dance floor.
Right.
So
okay.
We were getting. We had wooden floors. We had wooden floor in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And we were getting that taken out and putting tiles in.
Right.
So the carpenter at the time was getting rid of all the wood. Because I was handy with my hands and I was doing woodwork in school. So I got a 6x6 plank and nailed down the wooden slats onto, and somewhere that I could dance. That was my space that I could chuck talk on and practice.
Very good.
Yeah, it was only when you said that, but I remember that when it was only when you said that people practice for years. That's exactly what I did.
Sounds like the opening of a film, doesn't it? Where someone is lovingly crafting their own personal dance floor, and then
Barney, the memories that you're making me remember. Jesus Christ.
Paul, this is why it's so lovely to chat to you, because I'm just here to just kind of be nosy. I mean, one thing I wanted to